How's it going, guys? Back with some more Electroneum video, continuing the Electroneum love. This is going to be sort of our, I guess, second video on mining, because we had the first video, which was the beginner's guide to mining using Electroneum's own mining software, which I, in a previous video, might have mentioned I think is pretty garbage. Doesn't work very well, and it only hooks up to their official pool, so the payouts, I mean, they're pretty pointless as well. So I want to refer you over to a topic on Bitcointalk. As far as I can see, this is just a straight up copy of the Monero mining thread, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Electroneum's a fork from Monero, so everything works exactly the same. But we're going to go through this for anyone who are just starting out with mining and might be a little lost on how to get started. So what I would recommend you to do is just, I post the link in the description of this, so you can go through all this at your own pace if you wish. But if we just come down here, the all-in-one AMD NVIDIA CPU miner is the one that I would recommend. This is the one that I've been using, and I mean, I haven't had any problems with it at all. Works super well. Takes a little bit of configuring, but once that's done, it can just sort of, you know, take care of itself, and it'll just sit there and mine. So let's just come down here, and there we go. Here are the mirrors for where you can download it. There's the GitHub, which is the official download for this, and then there's the unofficial release, which lowers the fees from 2% to 1.5. I just went ahead and downloaded one of these because lower fees, that was great. I don't know, for some reason I had some issues downloading it from this GitHub, so I went over on the mega link and downloaded it from there. When you click there, you're going to see a couple different versions. There's just the regular stack version here, and then there's a CUDA 9 and a CUDA 8 version. So for this guide, I will be focusing on NVIDIA since I'm running a GeForce graphics card. And I tested out both the CUDA 9 version here and this regular version here, and it seemed like performance-wise and what I was getting out of it in terms of my hash rate was like comparable. So if you don't, if you don't have CUDA cores or anything, I just recommend downloading the normal one. So let's go ahead, right-click, and say standard download. It'll take a little bit, download, and then you can extract it. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this took me a little by surprise, but my antivirus was super aggressive when I downloaded this. I'm using Avast, so you might need to set up an exclusion folder just for this piece here, so your antivirus doesn't go in and delete any necessary files. So just a little heads up there. So, and I think they've actually done a really good job here of going through everything you need to know in order to set up the miner. But even so, we're just going to go through it, and I'll sort of like take you through how I set it up and my experience with using it so far. So I just extracted it into this XMR folder here. You can call this folder whatever you want. I set this folder up on my desktop, and I set it up as, an exclusion, like I mentioned, from my antivirus, just because the exe got flagged, got deleted. For some reason, I think this NVIDIA TXT file also got flagged. It was super weird. But anyway, there are 3 files that we'll need to set up. Let's just go to the first one, the config file. Here, the things that you need to worry about: pool address, your wallet address, and then the pool password, which is set to X. So for the pool address, if we come back to the Bitcointalk one, you see they made a list of recommended pools that are good to use. So I would probably stay away from the official pools. I don't know, the payout is not very good, and they also take a 4% fee on anything that's mined, so I don't really think it's worth it. I've tested out, I've tested out the hash party one, which is the one that I'm currently using. I've tested out this one and ETN hash. I've also tested that one out. Anything else? I think that's it. My favorite one so far has definitely been hash party. They have, I think this one is really good for beginners because they have pretty freaking payouts. Their payout is every 2 Electroneum that you mine, they'll pay you out. So they'll pay out every 30 minutes. with a a minimum balance of 2 Electroneum. So we just go over to the side, just have a look at it. Super nice. It's got everything you need to know about the mining and what's currently going on in the pool. I've seen the miners have slowly been going up. A couple days ago, I think we were at 2,000 connected miners, so it's good to see. And the pool fee is 2% down from the 4% from the official pool. So again, super nice. And if we just come down here, you can, like, once you start, or before you start, maybe you know what your hash rate was going to be. You could say 1 kilohash would be 112 Electroneum a day. This is about what I'm getting at the moment. It's around a kilohash, and it works fine for me. Over the last couple days or so, I think I've collected about 500 Electroneum. I might mine a little bit more, but so far it's been going pretty well. And you can just enter your wallet address down here, and it'll give you all the payouts of everything you've been mining. So, back to this. Pool address, you just type it in here, and for the port, on the Bitcointalk forum, they recommend 5 or 777 for GPU, and if you only have a CPU, you should go with 3333. So I set mine to 7777. It's been working great so far. All this other stuff you shouldn't have to worry about. One thing I did do is I changed my verbose level to 4, so there's an automatic printing of my hash rate, just so it keeps printing out. Let's see, every 60 seconds. I think that's about right. Just informing me what my current hash rate is. I just like to have an overview of this. Another thing that I also changed was the AES override. This is set to true because my Intel CPU supports this. So you're gonna have to look up what your CPU is and if it supports it or not. If you do turn it on, like they warn you about here, and your CPU doesn't support it, it'll just crash the miner. So maybe just leave it on, or sorry, leave it off if you don't know. Everything else, I didn't really want to bother with the large paid support, despite it being able to give me a little higher hash rate, because I just wanted to get started. But if that's something you're into, could be worth looking at it. Everything else, just leave it at default. Next up is the CPU. This is a super nice thing about this miner is that it'll combine the GPU with the CPU miner, so it'll use all of your system. The only thing I changed here was just the standard CPU thread. So mine was set to 0, 2, 4, and 6, and changing it from that to 0, 1, 2, 3 in terms of the physical cores just gave me a little better performance. So this might be something that you have to experiment with. I mean you can put in more cores. If you have more cores or whatever, and you know the corresponding number to that, maybe it'll be something like this, right? This just completely tanks my performance and doesn't give me a very good hash rate. So the other thing, let's see, this worked really well for me. So play around with it a little and see what gives you the best payout. Don't save that. And the last one is the NVIDIA text. So when you first run the miner, it'll go through and apply some settings depending on your hardware. And what it did for me in the beginning, I think it set my threads to 16 and the blocks to 62. And one thing I think to keep in mind is that your system might just crash, or the miner might just not work because maybe you don't have a good enough power supply, or maybe your settings are off a little bit. So I would definitely recommend playing around with the threads and the blocks. Leave everything else default. You could change this to true if it's set to default to make it play better with your CPU. Again, it's very much dependent on your system. And that's all you really need to know. Then we run the miner as an admin here in Windows and just give it a little bit to warm up, connect to the pool, and see what kind of hash rate we start out with. And once you do this, get a feel for it, maybe close down the miner again and fiddle with the settings to see if you can optimize your hash rate a little better. So now just the hash report has come in, and you can see the first ID here is my GPU, ID number 2 and number 4, that's my CPU. So this is the kind of performance that I'm getting with my system. I think maybe I'm averaging 700 to 800 hashes per second, and that's been pretty good for me. I have two laptops, two MacBooks actually sitting by the side, that sometimes I'll turn those on as well. I'm just doing CPU mining on those though, no GPU mining. I don't want to fry it. And both of those give me maybe 500 extra. So, you know, maybe I'll average between let's say 12 to 1400 hashes per second. And so far that's been a pretty good payout for me. I'm happy with it. I don't know how long I'll continue to mine this for, but so far it's been good. And I think right now the payouts are still decent, so right now is definitely a good time to get into it. So if you like this video, leave a comment down below, like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content, and thank you for watching.